Hello, I'm Mrs. Jansen. Let's draw color wheel birds together today. I hope you notice all the beautiful colors you see when you look at these birds. There are many beautiful birds in nature, and they are often in many different colors. Let's look at the color wheel together. Red, blue, and yellow are known as the primary colors. When you look on this color wheel, you're going to notice that the red, yellow, and blue have the word primary on them. The word primary means first. Purple, green, and orange are known as the secondary colors. When you look at this color wheel, notice that you see the word secondary on purple, green, and orange. I know you've been learning how to read with your teacher. Today we're going to learn how to read a color wheel. When you look at two primary colors, for example, let's start with the primary color of red and blue. When you look at those two primary colors and you look in between them, that's the color they make when they mix, if you're working with something like paint. Purple is known as a secondary color because it's made with two colors. Let's look at the primary colors of red and yellow. When you look in between them, you can see that when they mix, they create orange. Remember, orange is a secondary color. It contains two primary colors. Let's look at yellow and blue. Notice how you look in between, and when they mix, they create a secondary color called green. Let's read these color sentences together. Red plus yellow equals orange. Blue plus red equals purple. And yellow plus blue equals green. Now it's time for us to draw color wheel birds together. Please have your pencil, paper, and crayons ready. Please ask your family's permission to use a non-breakable drinking cup or the top or lid of a jar to help you trace or draw circles. It's okay if you don't have something to trace. You can draw your own circles. So you're going to see the screen change so that we can draw together. So in art, we turn our paper in different ways. And today we're going to turn our paper horizontal or across, and this is called landscape. So the first thing you need to decide is where you're going to draw your first circle. We're going to draw 6 circles all together. And you're going to see me using the top or lid from a jelly or jam jar. So wherever you've decided, you're going to place your first circle. Go ahead, press down firmly on that circle and try not to pick up your pencil until you're all the way around. Sometimes you might have to go back the other way to complete it. And after you've drawn your first circle, Make sure that you leave space in between the circles, and you can trace your second one. It does not have to be in the same place that I place mine. Just make sure that you have space around your circle and that you can fit 6 on your paper. In a few minutes, we're going to be turning these circles into birds. So keep tracing or drawing circles until you have 6 of them. Make sure you remember to leave space in between your circles. All right, now we can let our pencil rest for a little while. And you're going to need black crayon. So go ahead, choose any one of your circles and trace it with black crayon. Take your time. Try not to pick up your crayon until you're all the way around the circle. The next thing we're going to decide is what direction we'd like this bird to be looking in. I think I'd like this bird to look like it's looking down. So first I'm going to add an oval for the eye. And with my black crayon, I'm going to color that in. And now I'm going to have my bird looking down, so that means that the beak will be downwards. I'm going to add the beak with 2 diagonal lines that might remind you of a letter V on its side. And now I'm going to go back on the body of the bird. I'm going to add a diagonal line. And at the end of that diagonal line, I'm going to add a curved line like a smile. I'm going to keep my crayon down and add a second one and a third one. And I know that you learned that if we draw curved lines that look like smiles and connect them together, it's really called a scalloped line. Now I'm going to add the tail. Draw about a finger space away 3 or 4 diagonal lines. And at the top of those diagonal lines, let's add curves like a rainbow. So now that we've got our bird drawn, now we can add the legs and the feet. I'm going to start with a straight vertical line, and at the end, I'm going to add 2 diagonal lines that might remind you of a sideways letter V, and in the middle, I'm going to add a straight horizontal line. Now I'm going to go at least a finger space away, and I'm going to add a second straight vertical line. And at the end, those 2 diagonal lines that might remind you of the sideways V. And remember that one straight horizontal line in the center. Now you can go to any other empty circle on your page, and we're going to turn each one into a bird. When you start, you need to think about what direction you'd like that bird looking in. And that is what determines where you put the eye or the oval. I think I'm going to go to this circle, and the first thing I'm going to do is trace around it carefully. And remember not to pick up my crayon until I'm all the way around. I'd like this bird to be looking up. So I'm going to start with the oval here. Remember, I color it in with my crayon. And now I'm going to add 2 diagonal lines that might remind you now of an upside down letter V, or it really looks like 2 sides to a triangle. Now I'm going to add that diagonal line for the top of the wing, and at the end I'm going to add that curved line like a smile. Remember to keep my crayon down and add a second one and a third one. Now I'm going to add the tail. Remember, we're going to use 3 or 4 lines a finger space away, and then at the end of the tail, add curved lines. Now I'm going to add the feet. Straight vertical line, and at the end, add those 2 diagonal lines that might remind you of that sideways V with a horizontal line straight in between them. At least a finger space away, I'm going to add that second straight vertical line. Remember, at the end, I need those 2 diagonals that look like that sideways V and that straight horizontal line. Look at this. We've got 2 birds already drawn. Now, when we looked at all those birds together, I know you noticed that they didn't all look the same. So don't think that every bird that you draw has to look exactly alike. Remember, we can have it looking in different ways, and we can draw each bird a little differently. Now let's go to a new circle. And remember, the first thing you do is carefully trace that pencil line that you drew, and try not to pick up your crayon until you're all the way around this circle. Now you have to look at your artwork and decide which way would you like this bird looking. I think I'd like this bird looking at the one next to them. Start the eye with an oval and color it in, and then I'm going to add that sideways letter V with 2 diagonal lines. I'm going to add that diagonal line for the wing, and at the bottom, add curved lines like a smile. Now I'm going to add the tail. And the tail might go off the page, and that's okay. Remember, I'm going to use about a finger space away diagonal lines, 3 or 4 of them. And it really depends on where you placed your circle. If you've got a larger space in between the edge of the paper and the circle, you'll be able to draw the entire tail. Now it's time for us to draw the legs and the feet. Remember, straight vertical line, and at the end, the 2 diagonal lines that look like that sideways V, and a straight horizontal line in between. And add the next one, the same, straight vertical line, and at the end, those 2 diagonal lines that look like the sideways V with that one straight horizontal line in between. Now I'm going to go to the next circle. I always start the same way. I remember to carefully trace the pencil around this circle and try really hard not to lift up my crayon until I'm finished. I need to decide which way this bird's looking. I think this bird's going to be looking down, so I'm going to place the eye here with an oval and color it in. Now I'm going to place the beak with 2 diagonal lines. It really looks like the letter V this time. And now I'm going to go to the wing. On the body, I start with that diagonal line. At the end, I add those curved lines like smiles connected together, a scallop line. Now I'm going to add the tail with 3 or 4 diagonal lines about a finger space away, and depending on where my circle is, I might finish the top with those curved lines like a rainbow. Now I need to add the feet and the legs. So start with that straight vertical line, and then the diagonal lines like a sideways V, and that center line in between. Let's draw a second leg. Look at that. We've already got 4 birds drawn. Now let's go to our next bird and let's draw around the circle. This time I'm going to draw this bird differently. I'm going to draw this bird looking up. So instead of us looking at the side of the bird like we have here, we're going to be looking at it from above. So we're actually going to see 2 eyes. So add 2 ovals. If you decide you'd like to have your bird looking up, if you decide you'd like this bird looking in a different way, just add 1. Now here I'm going to add the beak with what looks like an upside down V or 2 sides to the triangle. And this bird is a little different since I'm looking at it from above. I'm going to add 2 wings with 2 diagonal lines. Now I go to the end and I add those curved lines like a smile, all connected like a scallop line, and then I go on this side. Now at the bottom, I'm going to add the tail. Remember, about a finger space away, 3 or 4 lines. And I don't have to draw the feet for this bird because I'm looking at it from above, so the feet are underneath the bird's body. I thought it would be fun to draw the birds differently. Let's go to our last bird. After you've traced that circle, you get to decide what direction you'd like that bird or this bird looking in. However you've decided, place the oval for the eye in that place. I'm going to have this bird looking down. And now I've added those 2 diagonal lines. Looks more like that sideways letter V. And now I'm going to add the wing with a diagonal line. Remember at the bottom, curved lines like a smile connected to create a scallop line. Now let's add this tail. Remember, 3 or 4 lines a finger space away, and at the top, curved lines to connect them. And now I'm going to add these legs and feet. Straight vertical lines and 2 diagonals with that center horizontal line in between. So now I've got 6 birds drawn, and I'm thinking of the beautiful music or the sounds that these birds make when they're chirping or singing. So you don't have to, but if you'd like to, you can add musical notes in between your birds just to show the sound that they make. We can start a musical note with a vertical line and then an oval, sideways oval at the end of it. We can color in that oval if we'd like to. You don't have to, you can actually leave it open if you choose. That's a different type of musical note. And then here's another thing you can add if you'd like to. You can add that curved line like a smile, and that's a different musical note. So I'm going to add sounds by showing musical notes. And every time I start a musical note, I draw a vertical or diagonal line first, and I remember to add an oval at the bottom. I'm going to color the oval in and add that curved line like a smile. Remember, we're drawing the musical notes in the open spaces around the birds. Make sure you don't put a musical note on top of the bird. So after you've decided how many musical notes you'd like to add to your artwork, the next thing you're going to do is color your birds. The only colors we're going to use today are the primary colors. So you're going to use red, yellow, and blue, purple, green, and orange. So it's up to you which bird you color which color. You can decide what color you'd like to color the beaks. And I decided in my art, I'm going to color all the beaks orange. Maybe you decide that you'd like to color some of them yellow. That's up to you. Now, we've used the black crayon, so what you need to remember when you're coloring is try really hard not to go over the black crayon. Notice how I made a smaller triangle inside the beak, and now I'm going to color that. Because if we color over top of that black crayon, sometimes it smears or smudges. So notice how I'm making that small triangle inside, and then I'm coloring inside that. So we've got 6 birds, and we're going to have a bird for every primary color. So we're going to have a red, a yellow, and a blue bird. And then we want you to show the secondary colors. So one bird will be green, another will be purple, and a last one will be orange. So I'm going to color the red bird first, and you can decide whatever bird you'd like to be colored. So please remember, since we've got the black crayon, we want to make a shape inside this space so that keeps the black crayon out of our color. So remember to make your shape first and then color inside your shape. And I'm going to trace around that oval with my red crayon, and that'll help me keep the red crayon out of the black. Notice how I'm creating a smaller circle in red inside this one. And that again is going to help my crayon stay out of the black. Because if my crayon goes into the black, it's okay, but I'll make a mix of those colors. So you might notice as you're coloring, you might see little white specks. You're actually seeing what's called the texture of the paper, and that's okay. What you don't want to see are big, open, empty white spaces after you're finished coloring. So notice how I just drew a line above the wing, so now I can color to that line, and I won't be coloring into that black crayon. And now when I color inside the wing, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add those curved lines. And I'm making that shape that I can color in. Now I'm moving my crayon around in a circle. So as we color, we can use our crayon in different ways. And we can use what's called heavy or light pressure. So I've colored the bird, and I just decided that I'd like to use a heavier pressure on the wing. So I'm going to go back on top of that wing, use some heavier pressure, and notice how that helps the wing to stand out. I'm going to do the same thing on the tail, heavier pressure on top. So now that we've colored the red bird together, now you need to color a blue one, a yellow one, a purple, green, and orange. And remember, you don't have to color them in the same place that you see that I'm going to color mine. I hope you enjoyed creating color wheel birds together, and I look forward to making art with you again soon.